Yeah, hi guys, Ryan back here with you again. Out here in Coachella, California, over by Indio, Palm Springs area at the TA. It is really hot here. I'll actually show you how hot it is. Just a second here. Okay, so there's the temperature on my dash, as you can see. 124 degrees. So it's pretty hot. So as you all know, if you watch my videos, I have a TriPac on my truck, and as hot as it is, it's working pretty hard to keep me cool in here, and just shut down on me twice. That gave me an alternator fault, and AL, it looks like an upside down F, is the fault code on the panel back there. And started doing some research on it. I figured it might be the alternator, so I went down there with my test meter, was testing that. And everything, it's putting out almost 14 volts, which is in spec. Everything's running fine. I've got here in a minute, I got the whole truck torn apart, I got the panels apart, I've been testing voltages here and there with my multimeter. And I just found the problem. And after being out here for an hour and sweating and all dirty and everything else, so it's a lot simpler than what I thought, so I'm glad it's not an alternator. But I'll show you what the problem is here. So as you can see, got the battery compartment taken apart, checking everything down there. Got the whole TriPac's torn apart, all the covers are off of that. Got the panel in there. Those of you who've asked about the panel, that's where my panel's at right there. There's a reset button right here on the side. If you ever need to reset it, you just push that in and hold it for like 30 seconds. Make sure the power's off if you ever need to reset it in there. But there's some voltage test points in here. This little white thing, I went off the schematics I have to test those test points. Couldn't find nothing wrong with it. Then I came back here to the engine, just happened to see it. And boy, oh boy, not a big deal, but it would sure cause it. So I'll show you what it is right here. So this is really hot. This little guy right here is the temperature sensor, coolant temp. And I look down, and what do we have? The two wires are broke off. So they must have, when this thing was vibrating, they must have pulled out of that terminal. And as far as that code goes, that came up. So as far as my research, that AL3 upside down F looking deal on the panel, that will throw, if that parameter, if it's missing the temperature sensor, to throw that fault. So I was looking at everything, racking my brain, testing the fuses and everything else, and it just happened to be that. So I mean, this thing's at the age now, with the salt and all that, and the, copper and salt and brine wire don't get along too well, so everything's pulling apart on this bad boy back here. So sometime when we get some extended time off, I'll just have to go through this thing and just replace all the connections and all that on it to prevent this in the future. But I'm gonna go ahead and shut the truck down here, since like I said, I've been checking everything, racking my brain on this one, and just happened to look down at the top and see those two wires hanging there. So I'm gonna go ahead and put a new terminal on those, hook this bad boy back up, and we'll start it back up and see what happens here. So as you can see by my surroundings here, I am not at the truck. And if you've all been watching the weather, it's extremely hot in Southern California and the Southwest in general. Just having some issues with the TriPac. I fixed the one issue, and then it turned into another issue, and another issue, and another issue. And I kind of played around with that for about another hour and a half after the previous portion of this this video, the beginning part, I should say. And you know what I said, it's just my dash was showing 124 degrees down here, and my TriPac being older, it probably needs some it probably needs a new dryer. It's probably about due for a dryer. It's about, condenser coil, expansion valve, stuff like that. It's probably not in optimal condition for temperatures this high, and just crazy things happen at extreme temperatures with extreme heat, and also with extreme cold. And so I just decided to get on get on my phone and start looking, and I found this little Quality Inn right at the next exit 2 miles up the road, had truck parking, CDL discount, so I ended up getting this for $75 a day, because I had this, yesterday was Saturday morning when we started having trouble, or early Saturday afternoon, and I'm out here till Monday morning. I'm going to leave. I was wanting to start up at about 3 a.m. on Monday, so I was looking at about 40 hours, give or take, where I was going to sit. And like I said, the TriPac, it's not doing it. I was fine over in Arizona when it was about 110 and it was working, but it was still, the compressor and all that was still kind of kicking in hard, and this running everything pretty hard for what we need to do. But like I said, I ended up getting this asked for a CDL discount and all that. They had a little bit of truck parking over here. It's not really truck parking, but they call it truck parking. I'll go out there in a minute while it's still cool. It's like 5:30 in the morning here, so it's not too bad yet. But today's supposed to be even hotter, so I'm kind of glad I made this decision, because I'm not going to run my truck, you know, out here idling for 40 hours, and even running down here, just even the truck air conditioning didn't want to cool it that well. So I just don't. It's not really worth it for. I think it was $169 I paid for 2 nights here. If I run that truck for 40 hours with California fuel prices, I mean, I'm going to be in probably $100 just for fuel, and plus the damage that I'm going to do on my emissions DPF system and all that, running that idling that long. It's going to be trying to do regens and everything else. So sometimes you just got to make those decisions, what makes the most sense and what's more comfortable for you and all that. But this is definitely not a bad room and all that. Let's see here. Yes, there's actually getting like one of the little suites type of room. And after all that work yesterday, I mean, I was really covered in dirt and grease and sweat and everything else, so it was nice to get in here and get a nice shower and just kind of cut back and relax. And I was working out there on that, being that hot, it almost took me back to my days working on generators and equipment when I was in the Navy back in Ramadi, Iraq. It was about the same conditions, quite honestly. You know, where everything's so hot, your tools and stuff are so hot you can't even touch them, and just get your throat gets dry and all that. It's just too much to deal with. So I'm gonna go out to the truck here and I'm gonna show you guys some of the components I was just talking about, some things that need to be in top order to be running in this type of extreme weather. Because like I said, mine it needs a little bit of a tune-up, I guess you could say, as far as the AC system goes. So I'll take a walk out there and we'll show you that, and we'll wrap up. Alright, so back out here at the truck, and there's so-called truck parking here. Which, as you can see, I just kind of got about the best spot in the house here, but that was parking across like 8 parking spots. But sun's coming up in the back, hills back there, mountains, whatever. So, and it's only like 95 degrees right now, so it actually feels pretty cool. And this guy here looks like he had a bad day too. Looks like the whole hub came off of his camper trailer there, bearings. So that's what happens when you try to run like 85 mile an hour with these campers. So I'll show you the problem that I was having. So I had that electrical system fault yesterday, and I tracked that down to that temperature sensor. We fixed that, so I showed you guys that at the beginning of this. And as soon as I got it started up, it ran pretty good for a minute. Then when the compressor kicked in, it like almost killed the engine. You know, because once this being this much hotter, it's going to raise the pressure in the system, just the ambient pressure. Then after it kicked in, and then it kicked off. It cut out the whole unit again, shut it down. I got in there and I seen it was an ACS fault, which is in the air conditioning system. So I went through, I looked through all the fuses and all that, and I found that the fuse for the condenser fan up here, it actually blew that fuse. So I replaced that, put in it was the in your panel, that'd be the CF7 fuse, a condenser fan. and this says CF7, but the way to think of that, CF condenser fan, then there's number 7 after it. But that's that unit right on the back of your cab there. So it knocked that fan out and that threw a fault. So I went ahead and fixed that, and then after I got it started back up, kicked everything back in, and then when, you know, started up, ran good for a couple minutes, and as soon as the compressor kicked, it just killed the engine. So that tells me, I mean, it's just too much heat out here, and I've probably got trouble with my, I mean, like I said, this isn't a brand new system by no means, and it could probably use some further maintenance, which we'll probably do. Excuse me. I'm going to be home for about 2 weeks to take care of some family stuff and all that, and get this other house ready to sell. So I'm going to show you the other 2 components on here that need to be serviced that I'm going to take care of when I get home. And let's see, let me get up here. Alright, so there's a couple different things that you got to look out for as far as maintenance of any type of AC system, not just the TriPac. I mean, even on the big truck, the engine, your AC system. So on your truck, this is out in front of your radiator or your intercooler, or charger, or cooler, whatever terminology you want to use, and your actual engine fan is what takes the place of this. But if these coils, it's like a little radiator, if you can see back in there. And mine's actually pretty clean. So I mean, if that gets plugged up, if you get a bunch of dirt and dust and stuff in there, you can either take an air gun and blow it out, or lightly use a pressure washer. Don't use like a 0 degree end on a pressure washer or something, or you're gonna blow holes to the thing. So be careful with that. But that's got to be clean. This fan needs to be working. So if you got a blown fuse and this isn't working, it's not going to blow air and cool that, and this gets really hot because it's basically a transfer of heat. In a roundabout way from the inside to the outside is how these systems work. The other component, which I can't show you, is in there in the inside on the evaporator coil. You're going to have an expansion valve, and it's a real small orifice in there, and that can get plugged up with debris or dirt or whatever, something gets in the system over time. So that expansion valve can cause high pressure and can be causing the problem that I'm having now. So I've got to look at that. That might need to be replaced once we get back home and start checking pressures and all that. But I'm going to be back home probably. I'm picking up this other load tonight or early Monday morning. So I should be back home Thursday, Friday morning to see how things go. So I'm not going to get into this out here on the road and be, you know, held hostage for parts somewhere when I've got a good parts provider. If I got to run the truck for 10-hour breaks, it's not. I still hate to do it. And you guys that asked me about buying TriPacs and stuff like that, you know, I hate having to run the big engine, you know, sitting idling for 10 hours or whatever. So so hopefully it gets a little bit cooler and this thing will act a little bit better in the cooler weather. But the other thing I want to show you down here, this is the dryer. It has there's a little sight glass on top of it there. Let's see. It's kind of hard to see. But right back here is a little glass, and sometimes you can see. Sometimes they'll change colors and there'll be color codes whether it needs to be replaced or not. But I'm definitely probably going to replace that right out. I'm going to go ahead and order that probably tomorrow and get that, because that's basically like your filter for the system. So I'm going to replace that. And just FYI, you do have to service any of this stuff, you do have to evacuate the system. So you all know how that goes. It's kind of nice right there. So you have to have the I've got a tank and all that for that at home to do that. But you know, some people just let it go into atmosphere, which that's not my business. So, but so that's kind of what I got into yesterday and what we got going on today. I had some other problems with the truck coming down here, and I'm gonna do a separate video on those. There's a couple others. There's another sensor that I found that can cause you a lot of grief out here, and I haven't found, nobody's talked about it. I haven't seen anything about it on YouTube or anything like that yet. And I had to really think outside the box to figure the situation out and look at a lot of that raw data that I talk about if you got a PDI or a Bosch HDS or something of that nature. So I'm gonna go ahead and call it a day for this video here, and so that's kind of what we got going on today. And I should get that other video on the that other sensor I was talking about on the truck that was causing some derates. But again, I hope you liked the video, and we'll see y'all next time. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and be safe out there and all that. So.